Blind girl cries in court, until her dog walks in and reveals the truth. 12-year-old Emma sat trembling on the witness stand, her pale hands folded tightly in her lap. Her cane rested against the polished wood, untouched. Though she couldn't see the packed courtroom, she could feel the weight of dozens of eyes pressing down on her fragile frame. The murmurs, the clicking of pens, the subtle shifts in the crowd, each sound magnified the fear inside her. She had never spoken in front of so many people. And now, she was being asked to speak about the night her world fell apart. "Emma," the lawyer asked gently, "can you tell the court what happened the night of October 3rd? Emma's lips quivered. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her throat closed up. The courtroom held its breath. She had been just a blind girl in the corner of a world too big and too cruel. And now, her voice was supposed to change everything. Tears rolled down her cheeks. From the back of the room, her foster mom, Mrs. Patterson, leaned forward, silently praying. The judge, a stern-looking man with silver hair, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Even the prosecuting attorney softened for a moment. And then it happened. The doors creaked open. Click. 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 The familiar tapping of claws on tile floor echoed like a beacon in the courtroom. "Maple." Emma gasped. A golden Labrador bounded in, her harness still on, guided by an officer. Maple weaved through the benches until she reached Emma and gently nudged her leg. Emma collapsed to the floor, wrapping her arms around her dog's warm body. The courtroom, previously tense and on edge, melted into hushed awe. The judge cleared his throat. "Let the record show that the guide dog, Maple, has entered the courtroom, and appears to be offering emotional support to the witness." People chuckled softly, and for the first time, Emma smiled. But the moment wasn't just about comfort. It was about truth. Maple wasn't just Emma's guide dog, she was the only witness to what had really happened that terrible night. Weeks earlier, Emma had been walking home from her after-school music lesson with Maple guiding her, just like always. They were only 2 blocks from home when a car screeched to a halt beside them. A man's voice, unfamiliar, rough, called out to her. "Hey! You need help crossing?" "No, thank you," Emma replied politely, clutching Maple's harness. Then came the sound of a door opening. The man grabbed her arm. Maple lunged, barking like Emma had never heard before. She pulled Emma back, forcing space between her and the man. A woman screamed nearby. Someone called the police. When officers arrived, the man was gone. Emma was in shock. Maple sat by her side, growling low, alert, but there was a problem. The man, the attacker, was none other than a respected city councilman named Richard Lowell. He denied everything. Claimed he had only pulled over to help. That Emma had misunderstood. That she was blind, and surely confused. The case had divided the town. And now, Emma was the only witness. Except, she wasn't. The defense had insisted that the word of a blind girl and her dog couldn't outweigh the record of a decorated public servant. But Maple had worn a special collar that night, a device that recorded everything for training purposes. And in a twist no one expected, the judge had agreed to hear it. But first, Emma had to try to testify. With Maple now sitting at her feet, Emma wiped her tears and took a shaky breath. "I was scared," she whispered. But Maple wasn't. She knew something was wrong. She pulled me away from him, she protected me. The courtroom was silent. Then the judge nodded to the officer, who stepped forward and played the audio. The room filled with the chilling sounds of that night. The screech of tires, the man's false concern, the sudden shift in his tone, the sharp bark of Maple, the tug of her harness, Emma's frightened cries. And then, clear as day, came the man's voice, threatening, unmistakably aggressive, followed by the scuffle and the terrified screams from Emma and a nearby witness. Gasps echoed around the courtroom. The defense attorney sat back in shock. The judge, for a long moment, said nothing. Then he looked over his glasses at Emma. "Miss Thompson," he said, "thank you. You were very brave to come here today. Maple, too." Emma smiled through her tears. Outside the courthouse that day, news reporters scrambled to capture the moment, a blind girl hugging her dog, surrounded by strangers now clapping, moved by the bravery of someone so small, yet so strong. The man was convicted of attempted abduction and assault. Emma's voice, and Maple's bark, had made the truth impossible to deny. But the real story didn't end there. 2 months later, a new law was proposed in Emma's name, Maple's Law, which would require all guide dog harnesses to include optional audio recorders when in public spaces, to help blind individuals in legal or safety matters. It passed unanimously. Emma began receiving letters from all over the country, other blind children who said her courage gave them hope. A retired veteran sent her his service medal. A woman in Maine donated enough money to the Guide Dog Center to train 10 more dogs like Maple. But perhaps the most touching moment came on Emma's 13th birthday. Her school held a special assembly in her honor. Students who had once whispered behind her back now stood up to applaud her. Even the principal cried as he presented her with a plaque that read, "To Emma Thompson, who taught us all that courage isn't about seeing the path, but trusting the light within you to guide the way." Emma stood at the microphone, Maple beside her. "I used to think being blind made me weak," she said softly. "But now I know, it made me brave. Because being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you are. And I couldn't have done any of it without Maple, my eyes, my heart, and my hero." The entire auditorium stood. And somewhere in the back, Mrs. Patterson wept quietly, overwhelmed with pride. Emma would go on to become an advocate for disabled children across the country. She and Maple were invited to Washington, D.C., where they met the president and shared their story on national television. But for Emma, the most powerful moment wasn't in court, or on TV, or even in front of Congress. It was a quiet evening in her bedroom, where she sat on her bed, fingers trailing over Maple's soft ears. "You changed my life," she whispered. "And maybe, you changed a few others too." Maple didn't respond with words. She just nestled closer, tail thumping against the bed. And in that small, silent room, there was a feeling louder than applause, more powerful than fame. It was love. It was trust. It was truth. And it all started with a little girl, a loyal dog, and the courage to speak, when the world needed it most.